Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett and I'm the founder and owner of TechViews, and today I am going to get into another how-to coding video. Now as far as this goes, this is a generalized for all coding, but as far as that goes, it was brought up to my attention that some people, they don't know how to get from point A as far as nothing to point B, which is starting to put the first line of code down or making a new project in whatever thing you choose to make it in. And that's important because the fact is okay, you got the workstation, Android Studio, Visual, whatever installed. The code doesn't start writing itself. So what you need to do, and the first things first, is you need to have a problem that you're trying to fix, or you need to have a generalized idea already in mind. So if you're doing entertainment, maybe you want to make a game. So what most developers would do is say, I want to learn how to make this. Like say for example with the Angry Birds thing, the person wanted to figure out how to put physics, like not real world physics but generalized physics in a application, and that's really where that came about. And you'll find that quite a few times is there's an actual problem, even if it's something like that they're trying to solve, and that's also part of the experimentation. Now with that, one thing you want to keep in mind is if you don't have a problem and you don't have an idea, then I won't even try to make an application. So with that, let's jump on into OneNote, and this is where I deal with my layouts and stuff, just getting a general idea. And one thing I would also mention is you should have this ability if you're on Windows. So jumping into OneNote, now real quick, if you don't have Windows 10, you probably still do have OneNote if you got a Windows computer, but if you're using some other operating system than Windows, then there should be some thing like OneNote that you can use. And at worst, if you can't find anything for your operating system, then try to use something like a just simple notepad, pen and paper type of thing. But as far as that goes with OneNote or things like it, where you can actually keep tab of multiple things, I got the notebook where it's called Android, since it's Android applications. If I'm doing Windows, then obviously I got Windows for Windows application and so on. But I'll just make sure that I titled the notebook properly. So from there, what I want to do is, and by the way, this is on my Surface Book, so I'm playing with the touchscreen right now. But there's two things I will do. One, if I know the generalized problems, then what I'll do is I'll just start a new thing altogether. Call it something I would know what to notice it as. So for example, if I'm trying to make an application that will detect if you walked over 3 miles a day, so I might call it like a 3-mile app. I'm obviously not going to name it 3 miles, but 3 miles, that tells me what the app does. By the way, this is a poor example for an application. It's just something to let you know my process of making the applications. So I wouldn't advise you making this one. But with this, if I know a specific a case used for this, I will jump right into the functions. If I don't, then like say for example, okay, What problems may come up when trying to track someone with 3 miles? Well, what I would do is I'll start a thing and call it problems. Then I'll go down below and do like a 1, I don't know, ABC, 2, blah, 3, whatever. Well, as far as that goes, I go and say, we got a problems list or a lot of problems list, and is it even possible to get around these problems? One, either in coding, or say, for example, if I got a generic problem, say, management issue at work, and a company's hiring me to make an application for them. Well, I'll need to know all the problems so I can list it here. And can I even make an application for the problems? Or do I need to make separate applications for the actual problems? And this will quickly tell you one way or another. And also tell you, can you even code it? I'm not talking about can you code it with your current skill level. Can you code it at all? And because, you can say, oh, there's a problem. We're not living on other solar systems. Well, no matter what, I can't code that. No one can at this time, but you can't code that. So obviously that wouldn't be applicable. But say something like with that management issue, well, maybe you got communication. So you can put an application on the phone for messaging. Okay, you can code that in. Maybe you got something in there on keeping track of the employees where they are in the factory. All right, now that presents a new problem. How do we keep track of them? And like what specific hardware we use to keep track of them. Okay, it's their phone. All right, we can go from there. Say it's mandated that they download a given application and show them. And you could go down that line and figure out all the problems, and can you actually make the application, or at least part of the application, or do you have to break it up in multiple applications and so on? Because keep in mind, if you go with your skill limit right now, it's probably not going to happen, because if you're watching this and if you're just trying to get tips and one thing, that's one thing. But if you're brand new in this, which I'm assuming that you are, you probably don't really have too many skills in coding, or you don't have any at all. So you're just trying to start from square one. So with that, keep in mind, you can come back to these things later, come back to these applications later, and make them as you gain skills. Plus, on top of that, if it needs to come out like tomorrow type of thing, then you can hire people to help you out. So it's not that expensive. You go to freelancer.com and you can hire someone for little or nothing, depending on the application itself, obviously. But $100, $200 for a small application, and the price goes up. But anyways, so we got our problems listed. So what we do is we go say, okay, I can do this. Now let's move on. Or what we can do is say, I can do this. I can do this bottom thing, but I can't do this right here. So if someone's hiring me to do something, what I'll do is I say, I cannot do this, what's in red, because of blah, 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 blah. But I can do these other things. Is that okay? And I'm like, yes or no. And if they say no, well, I'll be like, look, no one else can do it too. I can guarantee you this, because these are the reason why. And usually I'll explain that in the why I can't do that. And they'll figure it out pretty fast that their idea is or is not attainable, and that's a big thing. And same thing with the workplace. Like, say, if you're working for a company, they commission you to make an application. You can easily point that out. or you can say if you're in a workplace and they commission you to make an application, and your job is something else, say like you're an accountant and you make applications on the side, and the company's going to pay you, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000 to make an application. You can say, I can do these things, but I have to get back to you on this other thing, and then you can figure out if it's even possible of hiring another freelancer or at their current budget. And he'd be like, okay, I can't do this in red because I don't have the skill set. Hiring someone else will be too much. So is this okay? And they'll be like, yes or no. So with that, what you do is, given that you got a viable product or viable thing, we now start as you saw the other stuff, the functions. So we go from here and say, in fact, let me just go to this one. So right here, I go, this needs to be the function, so on, so on, so on. But basically, with this particular application, the data tracker application or data finder application, I was going to a vacation spot here in North Carolina, and as many people know, in the United States, cell service can get pretty bad. I was trying to watch Netflix. I'm on the way there. I don't like to drive. Other people tend to drive for me. And it's not one of those I pay people. I usually just, hey, you want to go somewhere? Yeah. Are you driving? Okay. Oh, you want me to drive? No. So with that, the thing is I was sitting back, want to watch Netflix or whatever. In Netflix, they require you have 3G or higher service. Well, what happens is every so often I was getting 3G service and other parts not so much. So I would like it to tell me, have like a vibration function, say, oh, you got 3G function now, and then it waits for a while and does it. So as you see here, I wrote out what the application really should do. And this isn't getting into all the, like, I don't put in vibrate every time. I don't put in how many seconds. I put in general ideas. And then if I want to sell the application or do whatever, I add that in, and that allows me to say, if I made this plan a while back, and if I have to come back to it, like if I have to walk away from it for whatever reason, I can come back to it at a later date and say, okay, I want to make this application, or I want to complete this application, but I don't remember all the parts. So I'm able to come back to it and remember and get a good idea on what things are about. It's very important for that. That's the entire reason for doing this big thing, is because what you're going to find often, especially making applications for yourself, like as a independent developer, you're going to find quite often that you have to walk away to life, and you'll come back to it later on. So with here, I think we're doing a application to track people's 3 miles. So what I'll do is something like track 3 miles, and blah. And like before, you saw where I just did a whole list of things going down like before. And there's another thing, is if you got an idea for a application, then but you want to do more research before you jump on in and get into the problems or whatever else, you can also do the research and just link all the stuff as you go on. So you can come back, and because this is your perimeter, your starting research, your foundation, so to speak, what you can do is you can come back to this and do your research and link things. And if you're doing it with pen and paper, obviously that won't be an option. So what you can do is you can simply email yourself, or what I like to do is, if you know how to use email, hopefully you do, then you can just start an email, put all links there, put the subject line, whatever the name of the application is, or like here where it says 3 miles. If I was doing pen and paper, I'll put 3 miles at the very top. Same thing as before, and say problem, function, and whatever. And then on my email, I'll put 3 miles in the subject, put all links in my research that I want to add into it, and then just save that draft, and that way I come back to the draft folder so I don't have to email myself. And I can keep editing there and use it as a notepad. So with that, now that I got the function laid out, so a generalized understanding, what I would do is do something like main screen. Very important that you get a general idea on the layout. So it's best to, I try to use black for the screen, but so we're tracking someone's progress on doing 3 miles, whatever. So what I'll do is have a animated GIF of a person walking, and then below have maybe some text, and the text being, this is how many miles, then some below, how many miles beyond, and maybe some other stuff. So I don't know, some buttons and some stuff. So in order to figure out what this means, because again, if you walk away and come back, you look at this and you're like, what the crap is this? Did something happen to me and I just don't remember? Did I pop my head and I drew this? How stupidity? No, you're going to come back and say, oh, this is a picture of a person walking, whatever. Then you say this is a current miles. Whatever, and whatever, and whatever. Now you maybe notice that I'm switching colors, and this is very important. When you're doing this on a pen and paper, you do need to use different colors, same as I'm doing here. The reason why is, one, I know black is my screen. Whatever the primary color is, I know that anything in this area is my screen. So the box is my screen, and anything inside, well, that applies. Well, the thing is if I do something like, well, now I don't know if there's supposed to be a line there if I come back to it at a later time or whatever. And then if I did all one color, like say for example, if I did whatever, I don't know if these two things are the same or different. That's important to note. And what that's going to do is basically say, if I got to write out a long thing explaining something, let me take a look at this app. Like right here, I got to do multiple lines. And sorry for my thing, But if I do have to do multiple lines, I can say what's what is what. So like this area where I have two things, and I don't know if this was read up here. I wouldn't know if these two things connects. Now another thing you can do is if you are doing small apps, you can easily do something like this where you can do everything in one page and so on. But it's better to use different pages and name it like main screen and go on from there. Now, obviously, this is not looking great, but this is not meant to. This is meant to show you the basic layout so you know, okay, is this what I really want? Now is the time to actually change it, because what's going to end up happening is when you go on Android Studio or many of these other workstations, is if you're doing modern day development, you're going to be dragging and dropping basic things, so text blocks, button blocks, and so on. And then you'll just code in the functions and all the other stuff there. But you're going to end up dragging that stuff into the layout. Obviously, with some things, if you're building a system from the ground up, that's completely different. But it's still important to get the basic layout, because what happens is say if I go to an employer or whatever, I can bring, and I have done this in the past, I can bring it and say, this is the abouts of what the application is going to look like. And they'll say, okay, I know that this thing is a picture. And I'll be like, what do you mean by this? This is a picture. Well, it says, the more you get to 3 miles, the more the thing's running, and the less it gets to it, the more of a standstill to even just a simple walk it's going. And they're like, oh, that's a great idea, or that's crap, don't add that, and here's the time to do it, and figuring out if you want to add that, because instead of spending money and time developing stuff that's not going to be used or playing a guessing game, you can figure it out now and show the person that's paying you. Again, if you're doing an independent development, again, the same thing applies. It's really about your time, because do you want your time to be spent on something? You can easily spend 3 months on a given project. Do you want, say, a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, and you got to push the 3 month project to 5 to 6 months, maybe longer, because you screwed up, turn out you didn't like something, and that was that. It's very important to get that. Now, this is obviously not the overall layout. This is to give you the general feel of it. I always end up adding or taking away things. Like, say for example, if I wanted to have 2 buttons on here, and I felt like, that doesn't really look good. In reality, the layout when I started may look like this, but I just didn't add it, or I might have added a second button if I needed it or wanted it. And that's a big thing to keep in mind, is this is not the exact, it's just a general layout. It's a rough draft, and so to speak. And then the same thing applies is if you go to another page. So we got the main page. Now let's do the settings and do the same thing as before. Is we go and draw the screen and do whatever And the one thing you'll notice is I do a common theme across the board. So let's go back to this data. As you can see here, see if I can pull up a different color. I do scribble, wavy line thing. And that's always meaning to me text. Text is supposed to go here. A box with a line in the middle is a toggle switch. See if I can find something that's worthwhile. I don't think I have anything that's I'm currently working on. Yeah, I'm not working on anything else right now. But as far as that goes, I tend to use common themes across the board. So for something like this, with circles or squares, I tend to use as a button. Circles tend to be like check boxes, so the person can select it and check it or non-check it. Tends to be text, that's scribble, whatever you want to call it. Basic things like that. Maybe I'll have something like here where a square and something inside of it, so it's something like this, and something like that. Even exactly like that. I know. Okay, it's a picture, and what type of picture do I want to put there? It's one of those type of things. But from here, what I can say is, okay, here's the text, blah, blah. And then do a so something like that. I know exactly what I want to put in there or what I need to be aiming for. And again, these things could change easily during your design and development process. Now, as far as that goes, so an example of that, just trying to find something else on here, is you can see that I got text right there, I got buttons right there, and I know exactly what the buttons are supposed to be doing based in the text should say. I know what the button is supposed to say. And sometimes I got where if I just want a picture, I sometimes just do a square and next to it I know, okay, it's supposed to be some picture or animated or whatever, and then so on. And like if I'm doing a widget or something like that, I might put on here, okay, home widgets, and obviously the spelling doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get something out, like right now, because if you're trying to spell things 100% right, then you're really going to get into the problem where your creativity is going to be lacking, because your creativity needs to come first during this moment. So if your spelling is atrocious, your handwriting, as long as you can understand your handwriting, I might not be able to understand, but if you understand it on your handwriting, then that's great, because you need to keep the flow going. So keep that in mind. If you're missing letters or whatever, it's perfectly fine. I just noticed that. But anyways, with this, like with a home widget, I might have something like this where I know that this is the screen, and this here, since it's black, it's within the same thing. This right here, since it's black, it's connected. And what I have fact, I can just undo all that. Is say what's inside of it. So it's kind of like a blown up picture. Same thing here. Now, as far as the exacts of how you want to do this, it's up to you, and this just gets you to the basic. So from here, we would have our application. We know what the problems are that we're trying to solve, and that we can run across, because we can say that we have these set of problems we're trying to solve. Then we can make a narrow list of things that we want, that will come across, that we need to figure out as we go. But we have our functions too, and maybe our research links and stuff like that. So from here, we got our functions, so we can get a good idea on what the entire application needs to do on the back end, what a generalized layout should be, and so on. So what we can do is now go into the workstation, being if we're coding for Windows, a TV, something, I don't care. You can start coding for that. You know the layout, you know the functions, you know the problems. You got everything in front of you. So anyways, as far as that goes, this has been Craig Bennett, the founder and owner of TechViews Nope. And if you have any questions at all, then please feel free to leave it down there in the comment section, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. Please leave a like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.